Welcome to the Practice Podcast, conversations probing the nature of practice. I'm your host, Dave Fearon, co-author with Peter Vale of the digital book on Practice as a Way of Being. Find it at mylibrary.world. And now to our show. Well, folks, Emily Castellon. This is going to be fun for a lot of reasons for me. First, about almost a year ago, I stepped up on the stage for the church karaoke, a little country church out here. And I just started to get acquainted with the people at the church, so I said, I'm going to throw caution to the wind. So I sang one song at the beginning and one song at the end of the evening. The very next Sunday, like 2 days later, Emily comes sliding down the pew where I was sitting, and she goes, "Oh, I heard you're a wonderful singer." I said, "I think you've been misinformed." But that became the beginning of, first for me, a chance to be in that choir, which has been delightful. And secondly, to see Emily in action. She is our church music director, but she's, in a moment I'll find out more about what she does in the other part of her day. Emily, should I tip my listeners off that you're also working on becoming a mother and soon?
Yes, I would love that. I think it's really, really interesting to hear about the developing baby too. So I think the baby it has ears at this point. So I'm just curious to see, like how the movements of the developing child are going to align with, like, for example, when I'm singing, when I'm playing an instrument, and we'll dive into what I do during the day, but almost 80% of my day there's instruments blaring at me. So
there's absolutely no chance the baby will not be musical. I mean, even if your husband isn't, with all that music that's coming through you now, it's and folks, we have a relatively new Yamaha instrument. I can't call it a piano because it's more than that. It's a church. It's got a lot of bells and whistles. And when Emily sits down with that and starts to riff, I mean, it's amazing the sounds you can get out of it and how quickly that you can work through and have the right music up there for us. Then she very patiently rehearses us. Got to be patient with me because it takes me a minute to find the note. And off we go. When did you start at the Burlington Church, Emily?
I started in 2022 or 2021. No, 21. Sorry. So I've been there. I've been there 4 years. I was seeking a musical outlet that would be fulfilling and would bring me into a part of a community. I'm a saxophone player by nature, but I really didn't want to be out playing at night. I'm not a night person. I've done gigs like that, and I want to be home with my husband. Like I'm starting a family, so I think it's more fulfilling for me to participate in music during the day. So I'm like, okay, what could I do? And then I'm like, whoa, church musician, love it. So I applied to multiple churches. I interviewed with Michelle Deeb, who is a wonderful community member. And, it was just a right fit. It was a right fit. They actually recruited me to work in the region as well, Region 10. So I was doing that and working at the church. And unfortunately, it didn't work out at Region 10, but I've always loved working at Congregational Church of Burlington. It's been a really fulfilling and wholesome musical experience. And I feel like I'm being the professional musician that I can on the weekends. And then, during the week, I'm a music educator. So it's get to inspire young people through music. I love it. It's like the perfect balance of like performance, like education. Like I I've never thought that I would be a church musician because I've always been a band kid. I was super band geek. I grew up in Berlin, like not too far away. Just like was in the marching band, was drum major, loved marching band. Like I always wanted to be a band director when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
And now I teach choir and like I love it. It's amazing. So
Well, I will comment on the choice. It's really made a big difference. Our church has, as long as I've been there, which is less than a year, it's seeking out what they call a settled minister. In the meantime, there's been several folks who've come and go, and now we have one who'll be there at least 6 months. But my point is, the music is always the constant, and people want to hear something when they arrive on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. They want to get into the spirit of being in church as opposed to anything else out there in the parking lot and beyond. And so you start with some light music as they come in, and then we have our anthem usually. We also obviously sing along with the hymns. And we're up above, folks, and it's a 1700 vintage church, and we're up in the balcony. And he looks down on this beautiful sanctuary, just so plain and straightforward. One stained glass window, which you see directly across from you, Emily.
I stare at it every service.
Yeah, and I believe that he looks back. I kind of believe that. But the atmosphere there, talk a little bit about how you feel about creating the atmosphere for worship, basically.
So my belief is that music elevates the service. It allows you to have that pensive, actions and just reflect on what the minister is saying. And it helps to keep not only the traditions and for example, like the Gloria Patri, the doxology, those help us to, keep the traditions going. But it also just allows you to reflect, like in the beginning, when you enter the church, you can find yourself chatting with somebody or, just sitting in quiet reflection. I try to play music, improvised music that really just allows like the mind to just wander and just, get yourself ready and settled. So, and then with selections and like in regard to like the choir singing, we also have a bell choir that performs and a youth chime choir, which is fun for the kids. It's just, holy selections that really just carry on the message that we want to have at church. Mm-hmm. I think it's now coming up in my favorite time of the year, holiday time. So I'm excited to just, keep selecting things that just heighten the service for sure.
Yeah. And the bell choir is very serious. I kind of look across the balcony to see them over there, and they're basically all ages. And as a young high school age person, and then there's someone who's close to my age or maybe older, and they have their white gloves, and you get them. You pick the music, you rehearse them, and then on Sunday when it's their turn, I think it really moves the people. There's something about it, that sound of the bells, and the fact that they're real human beings making those sounds, not artificial intelligence, I guess you'd call it. Mm-hmm. Well, I am curious now that the rest of the day that you've spent, what do they call you in the school system where you're working?
They call me.
I know, beyond Emily, and here comes Emily, but and I don't mean in the way of insults, of course. You're very well loved.
I'm Italian. Come on now, I gotta go with the comedic style. I am an elementary band director, so I teach grades 5 and 6. Beginning band instruments. I have been in this position for 2 years. I teach in Cheshire. I've taught previously as a general elementary music teacher and choir, middle school choir director. I've also worked with high school students. So I've kind of worked everywhere. I've been in 5 districts at this point. This is my 6th year teaching. I just keep falling victim to like getting cut from the budget, being lowest man totem pole. So I've been around the block is what you could say, but I'm really happy in Cheshire. I feel like I found my people. and witnessing children like perform and like take their first breath on an instrument or like play, their percussion, like it's kind of cathartic to be like, because that was something for me that like when I started in fourth grade, I didn't think much of it. My father's a musician. He went to Berkeley. He's like very prolific. You think I'm impressive? My father is like, be like serious. He's amazing. I'll bring him in for you if you haven't seen him.
I think he has come to church. I've heard that he has come to church on some of the special days.
Yes, Frank Lombardo. I gotta get a little promo in there. No, I'm totally. he's
available for hire.
yeah. He's fabulous. But anyway, it was always a part of my life, and then I didn't really take it seriously until high school. But it's just like, it's something that I look back on and I'm like, I'm just so glad I participated in music, because music is something that makes you feel a part of something. It makes you belong. Nobody is left out. Everybody's doing a different job. Everybody's like contributing to the whole. And there is just so much research about participating in the music is giving you the social and emotional like boost with, having people at your school. Like even when I talk to my kids about my program, like the 5th and 6th grade is in the elementary school. When you're going to middle school, you already know your friends in band. Like I'm always plugging for it. And I love it. Like I love it. So.
Well, my not so young kids, Dave and Laura, were in a small country school district, basically, but up in Western Maine. And both of them, when they reached, the 5th grade, they had to select instruments, and not had to, they wanted to. Dave selected a trombone, and he played right through high school and through college. He played in a jazz band at college. It was just that trombone gave him something to center a lot of his life around. I mean, he didn't keep it going when he went on to graduate school, and Laura too, she liked the trumpet, and she said, I don't know if girls are allowed to do trumpet, but I sure am. She was like that. When you even allowed to do trumpet? She said, I never see girls playing trumpet. But it was a small band. Anyway, my point is, particularly when they got into the marching band in high school, and it was regional district, so that they competed all over the state and even down into Massachusetts. And we were such band parents, my God.
Parents.
Oh,
PPA,
Lord, and we ran the concession booth. And but it made a big difference during the football games, because they'd get out on the field. It was a very special part of our memories that Connie and I have of what happened to our kids. So music is a big deal. Now, I'll just throw in one more family note. I was trying very hard when I was in elementary school and junior high to find something that I could play, because I failed at the piano. In fact, I was fired by my piano teacher for not practicing. So I haven't changed a lot in all these years. But I was told that I had a real good sense of rhythm. And so they gave me the bass drum. And so in a way, I thought, this is not very elegant. I mean, I'd rather be playing snare drum. But actually, what I realized now, many years later, is the bass drum is like a heartbeat, isn't it?
Totally.
And no matter what the song is, particularly band songs, you're carrying a lot of what holds the band together and gives them a cohesion. So I now wish I hadn't given up my bass drumming in high school. I got through most of the years bass drumming, and then I thought, well, I'm getting too busy, and who needs anyone can bass drum. It's not true, right?
Yeah, I have a lot of beginner percussionists that struggle with like the internal beat, and there's a controversy that, all children are musical. It's just depending on what level of ability. So if I see somebody struggling with like keeping a beat, that's something that I'll work on with them. But it is challenging to teach if you don't just have like And I was taught like by my band director, tap your foot, but then like it's like patting your head and rubbing your tummy. Like some people just simply can't do it. So it's interesting how I'm still kind of learning how to teach that, when me personally, it's been something that I just naturally have.
Yeah, and see, that is all the time that I have been mostly focusing on practice. And throughout my career, I've always been interested in the practice of leadership and in management, which is what I taught in the universities. I realize that everyone has something that's natural. I mean, in them, whether it's a gift for a certain sport or cooking, which my son and his wife do beautifully. It's just that something comes easy to you. And I used to think, well, it's not where, if it comes easily, then, why work on it? Well, once it's coming easily, now you've got the latitude and the longitude to really develop yourself. Did the saxophone particularly come easily to you when you were in
It did. It did, yeah. And I've my dad was my first music teacher. I would kind of just sit there unwillingly at first. And I was like, oh my God, Dad, stop. But it came super natural, and I felt like I could do a lot more challenging things, like growing up, like and playing in band. Like we would just do such easy music that I'm like, I feel like I need a bigger challenge. So my dad really helped supply that. And then when I chose to pursue it as a career, and for my college major of music education, you need to select an instrument to perform on. Like the music education degree is very very dependent on not only like the education side, but like developing your own personal musicianship. So as I was like auditioning for college, there's a really cool classical alto saxophone repertoire that you just don't really hear day to day. So it's that was when I found like I could really just like hit my stride. And I've also like been involved with jazz too. Like my father is primarily a jazz musician. He tries to be a classical musician, like me too, but like naturally, like he's a jazz. So I felt like that allowed me to like explore more creative outlets. And like I've always played piano. It's always been something that I love to do. I haven't played sax in a while, but like my piano like really helps, and singing helps me to just get that, like feel that outlet to be fulfilled musically.
Like piano, sort of the parallel skill set that you needed to develop to be a music educator, I assume. So
yeah, and there's a big emphasis on like piano performance during college. Like you do need to take 4 semesters of piano. I also like continue to study piano, but like if you like music theory is so tied in with the piano, and like listening dictation exercises and the chord progressions. And like, if you don't understand like music theory or anything, like the piano is just like, I took AP Music Theory in high school. So again, I was kind of like fostering that appreciation for like, why does it sound good when, a pop song has this chord progression? Or why does it always feel like if I play a 5 chord and I go to a 6 chord, that's called a deceptive cadence. And that like to the ear, we want it to go back to 1, but oh no, it went to the other chord. So it's really interesting to delve into that. And like, as a professional musician and educator, I can like listen to music and like hear something that maybe, not somebody would hear. And I have an example of that. My father, he's a lot of my like musical inspiration, but there's a song by Michael Jackson. I can't think of the name right now, but there's a part in the Michael Jackson song where there's like one note of a baritone saxophone playing, and he just would listen to it over and over. He'd be like, guys, listen to the baritone. And we're like, what? But then you hear it and then you can't unhear it. So I've always,
with all the music that goes through both of your minds and your ears and your mouth when you're playing the reed instruments, to focus on one note in the middle of a Jackson song and just want to hear it over and over again. To me, that's a mark of a true practitioner. And the other part is you have, I'm sure you have a good ear in I won't say perfect pitch, but I think you probably do. So,
I don't know. I don't know if I do, but my ear.
but
Sorry,
you can hear it, right?
yeah, like
When
I can
someone's
hear.
off, and I'm thinking, oh God, thank goodness I'm sitting 3 people down from Emily, because my pitch is like an experiment. Let me try this. But you've been very patient with me. But as you're out there, though, it's kind of a mixed blessing, isn't it, to have such a sense of music and then hear someone performing or a group performing, and then you can almost hear, oh, gee, they could use a better this, or someone should take it up to a different key. How does that work?
Yeah, so like part of my training as a music educator is like you have to do something called error detection. So like basically the way they teach it is like they'll give you a piece of music. It'll be like mi, re, do, whatever. And then like somebody will sing it incorrectly. They'll sing like re, mi, do. And you have to figure out where in the music it went wrong. And then it just gets more and more complicated from there. So it's kind of like kind of like a dictation, even as you would do as a kid, like reading a sentence. I actually had trouble like reading as a kid, like paragraphs. I remember going to something called the Fluency Lab. So it's really interesting that like I read music now for a living. I grew out of that quickly though. I grew out of it by like third grade. But anyway, like I think there's certain things that, like on the instrumental side that like, you can give a modification for like this fingering, or if like something isn't working in this key, like for example, the band mostly plays in the key of B flat. Saxophones have this key. So as a beginning band director, I really try to expand like their abilities as in the second year of playing. As for the vocal side, I was more trained like instrumental. I did take vocal courses in college, but I wish I could know more about like the voice, because I've never really like taken a voice lesson. And like the fact that I teach, it's like, who allowed me to do that? But I have the basic understanding. Like, for example, when you're warming up a voice, you want to, start at a certain pitch and go from here to here. You want to do it low and slow. You want I know the basic stuff, but I think like, if somebody's singing in a key that's just like their voice just like maxes out on like an E flat, okay, let's go to like a different key. So I have a pretty basic knowledge of that, but that's something that I'm looking to just really expand upon.
Well, that's what also what I find is delightful about people who are serious about their practice is that, it's sort of like you're building a tree with branches. But there's always that gap as you're looking up, saying, well, I'd like to do more learning about voice. Now I'd like to maybe move into more classical music, whatever it is. But it basically, along with being a wonderful mother and wife, you're going to have something else that'll always be there for the rest of your life, which is this not only love of music, but the love of performing music and in inspiring others to perform is never going to go away, Emily. So you better get used to it. But that's a beautiful thing. It really is. Not a lot of people have a practice interest that will carry them their whole life. I think of kids who are, I'm going to be a football player. So they get up to junior high and then football. But they rarely get picked for a college team. And so like, oh God, I put all that effort into being a football player, and now I can't even get picked for, a second string college team. Or they get to the college team, but there's chances of going to a pro, or it's because it's a team sport and it has everything to do with your youth and physicality and all those things. And you're also visibly competing with literally hundreds of people, no matter where you are. Yet now I'm making a pitch for Lifetime. Lifetime sports for kids, also Lifetime music. There'll always be music. Even if some of these kids don't become performers in high school, they will hear music differently than the kids who never had your band leadership. And, so you're giving them something, and then maybe it catches on, but they can take it, as you did, right into the rest of their lives. My son's two of my son's closest friends from that little high school became music educators. And one actually, he's in this little rural school district where most of the kids were very poor, and they couldn't afford instruments, so he raised the money for the instruments. And over 30 years, he transformed that little region of Maine as a place where if you really want to hear great music, you got to go to that high school at one of their performances, because these kids will blow your heads off. And so you see what a really gifted music educator can mean to kids, because these kids there was no football team, there was no football field, there was there was hardly anything for them to do, but they could all, who wanted to, could sing or play an instrument, and it was great. And when Andy retired just this year, he's now devoted himself to the Maine Music Educator Association and all the different ways to literally fight to keep a budget in the schools of Maine, and this goes on everywhere, for that particular way of kids development. It makes no sense to me, except I understand politics, that the first things, as you just said earlier, get, quote, cut, art and music. I have no idea what they think a human being is going to be if it doesn't have a way of expressing herself in some way or another. Certainly not in sitting there doing math problems in a workbook. That's just what I'm actually pontificating here. But I want to know a little bit more about the college you chose. It sounds to me like you had a very comprehensive college education for becoming a music educator.
I did, and I absolutely loved my university. I went to school in Plymouth, New Hampshire at Plymouth State University, like mega music program. I can't really speak to it in the current state because a lot of the like legendary professors and educators have retired, but it was like super booming. Like actually my band director, so I grew up in Berlin. And my band director went to Plymouth State, and I was like so inspired by him. And I went to go visit. I went to audition. Really just loved it. Like loved the vibe. So, and then my coworker also, who was in Cheshire with me, also went to Plymouth State. So there's just like a long line of like music educators. But the program, it was just fantastic. Like they took the musicianship so seriously. Like I was in multiple performing ensembles. I was in flute choir, clarinet ensemble, saxophone quartet. I was in concert band. I was in jazz ensemble, jazz. We had a jazz band eventually too. You need to know the like teaching the methods of the instruments. So like every semester you would take brass methods or woodwind methods, or I did choral conducting, instrumental conducting, music history. There are just so many courses that like really just well prepared me. I loved it. I loved being in college. It was really challenging being away from my family. Because my family is in Connecticut, but I just
for people don't know the region, and if they're listening in, let's say Australia, New England has two levels. There's sort of a more developed level down here because it's closer to New York, but then the second tier of New England, including New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont, and those are beautiful areas: the mountains, the lakes, and the coast for Maine, but they tended to be scarcely populated. So you wouldn't expect to have such a powerful music education program way up there in Plymouth. I mean, it's right up parallel to where I raised our kids over in Farmington. It's up there, and it gets cold in the winter, and we get a lot of snow. But that's what I love, when there's almost a miraculous program that you never expected. And you expect to go to Berkeley or some of these other places, which are highly competitive, that you get so much more personal attention up there and a chance to really spread your wings.
Totally. And I felt like I applied to see like Central Connecticut State, UConn. But I felt like the individualized attention and like kind of being a big fish in a small pond was kind of the vibe. But like for example, the students, like the freshmen would be expected to perform in like afternoon recitals. We would have one every Wednesday, like, and we would select repertoire. We would have a pianist to rehearse with, and we would prepare like really challenging music and perform. And it was like nothing I've ever experienced. Like, and it just fed like that like hunger in me. I loved
had a
it.
lot of confidence in you guys once they admitted you, and they weren't going to let you have it easy. But look, I experienced the benefit of Plymouth State right here on Sundays and on Tuesday nights.
Hey-yo.
As we're moving into wrapping up here, you mentioned being a big fish in a small pond. Well, in a way, I could have chosen. When I decided after my wife passed away, I said, I got to go back to church. I'm getting close to a time when I want to be in good stead, with
Thinking ahead, Dave. I love it.
I definitely, I'm in my 80s, the clock is ticking. Anyway, I could have gone to a much larger Congregational church in Avon. Looked like quite well-to-do. And there were a couple of others, but I am born a Congregationalist, so I wanted that. I wanted to feel like it did when I was a kid. Now I know that they all want modern. Let's have more jazz music in the churches and stuff, and because it draws more people. But I just look at our little church as not a place to be entertained, except you feel good about the music, but you're there also to have sort of be transported, if you will, into another way of being during that hour and a half. And so, but here's my ramble, and I'll bring it to a point. I think because you are a big fish and are a very small pond, and I would wish you had a choir of 30 to work with. I hear there used to be
maybe one day.
But you could have gone to, when you applied to other churches, you could have gone to a much bigger church and had a much bigger choir and maybe an organ as well as a piano. How are you feeling about being in our little church?
I think it's the perfect match for me. I grew up Roman Catholic, so having, as you mentioned, one stained glass window was a personal offense to me when I walked in.
Yeah, they go big on the stained glass. Catholic churches.
I love it. Ours is stunning, but I was just so new at it, so I felt like, because I never done it before. I'd never directed a church. I was young. I was like 23, so I didn't really know what to expect. But it's just been like the small like hometown feel of like everybody knows each other. Everybody's gonna ask you, how is your husband Joe? Like it's just I love it. Like it's the perfect level of challenge for me just to like work with a group of dedicated people. Like I just I love it. I love our church. I think like it's my happy time in the week.
When sure. Emily comes down from the very ancient set of stairs, which always scare me coming up and down.
I know.
When she comes down into the sanctuary, as we're all, and out into the big room where there's refreshments at the end of church, you hug your way through, don't you? Hug. You get about 12 hugs on your way to your car, which I think is just what you said. People are, it's a home church. And the way you've certainly helped me, you've helped me a great deal just by being accepting of me and patient with me and having laughs. I want to thank you as we end up this podcast for really finding the music in me.
Oh, I love you.
Yeah, and my kids appreciate it because they know how much I love now to go to church on Sunday and after I get up those stairs and
I know. Well,
and see what we're going to sing.
I'm going to plug it too. Like, as you were mentioning that music is a lifelong love. Like, you're not going to see a 50, 60, 70-year-old playing soccer or, we have adult leagues, but it's very dependent on like physical ability. Whereas this is like an intellectual. So it's something that grows you're in my choir. I have an 89-year-old in my choir. Like, that just tells me that, like, this is just good for the soul. I always say that music is good for the soul, and it just keeps you connected, and it keeps you reading, and it just keeps you, like, something's happening up there. Like, the brain activity is, I'm not a scientist, but, like, there's something going on when you're reading music, when you're participating. It's good for you. It keeps you more alive. Like, I'm addicted to it. Like, I hope you are too.
I think I am, and I agree with you. I think I was extremely lonely after a relationship that went 70 years with marriage as well as dating with Connie, and I was just like completely lost at home. And then I realized the church was only 2 miles from the house, and why am I just sitting here on Sunday? So once I got there, and now that I'm your lead baritone, because there's no others.
They don't gotta know that, Dave.
I'm going to look forward to seeing you every time, and certainly congratulations on your marriage and the baby. And
thank you.
Remember my prediction.
I will. As
soon as the baby starts to cry, she's going to cry in what, B minor?
I play a lot in C, so we'll see how that goes. Dave, we're so happy to have you in the choir. It is.
Thank you.
I absolutely love it. You and your LL Bean catalog of clothing just makes an appearance.
Yeah.
Love it. We love it. We love having you. I'm so thrilled to be working with you. Like, it means the world to me.
Well, thank you. Okay, Emily.
All right.
Get on with the rest of your day, and I'll share this podcast with the world.
All right, Dave. Well, I'll see you tomorrow for rehearsal 7 sharp, baby.
Yep.
All right. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Practice Podcast, conversations probing the nature of practice. If you'd like to hear more, go to Automatic, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or YouTube. And please consider purchasing our book on Practice as a Way of Being at mylibrary.world. It's a digital book with lots of features that you do not see in a conventional book. So once again, thank you, and I look forward to you listening again.